report are that when we talked to you yesterday, we thought, yesterday being Sunday, we thought that the spill probably had occurred on Saturday. We now have reason to believe that it actually occurred as early as Friday on the 13th of December. So for the folks who yesterday we had advised that had you been in that area and if you had concerns, we were talking yesterday about Saturday and Sunday. So now we actually know that the mercury was present as far back as Friday. We think that that is an accurate beginning of the event. The second thing that we've learned is that the area of contamination is a little bit bigger than we had initially reported yesterday. This is an evolving situation. We've now learned that inside the Walmart, mercury has been discovered inside the Walmart, and in particular there's a McDonald's inside of the Walmart that also is contaminated. In addition, just a couple of hours ago, we found out that there is a Buc-ee's convenience store. Now that's Buc-ee's, B-U-C-K-Y''S, which is across the Beltway, that is also has mercury's been found there. And so those are the two big updates, is that the footprint is a little bit larger, and also the timeline has been confirmed to begin on Friday. We expect that as time goes on and as the law enforcement gives us more information, that we may find yet other places, but we will keep you up to date with that as we learn those things. The other thing to remind folks is that the advice that we gave yesterday from a medical standpoint is unchanged. So the symptoms remain mild. An acute short-term exposure generally does not cause people any health problems. We advise that pregnant women may want to contact their primary care physicians, their OBGYNs, because unborn fetuses are particularly sensitive to mercury, so you may want to reach out to your OBGYN and check with them. Otherwise, folks don't need to rush off the emergency department, but if you're concerned, you should contact your primary care physician, have a conversation about whether any testing is needed, and then based on the results of any testing that's done, they'll guide you forward with whatever treatments may or may not be necessary. And so that's our update for this evening. The footprint is a little bit larger, and the timeline has been confirmed to be on Friday the 13th. Thank you.
Doctor, do we have any indication that there might have been spills at a hospital, a local hospital?
Say again?
Do you have any reports of there being any spills at a local hospital?
So there is, whether it's connected or not, this is what the law enforcement talked about last night. There was a person up in, I want to say it was in Montgomery County at a hospital outside the city limits with mercury, and so the law enforcement is working to see if these are connected. So I don't have any, the reason I say that, I just don't have the detail on that.
Can you specify if it was the same person that was at the hospital?
Yeah, and I don't know. That'd be a question for law enforcement. Yeah.
How is it spread?
How is the mercury spread? So it's a liquid. At room temperature, mercury is a liquid, and it is a metal. And so if you were to take a drop of it and drop it down on a flat surface like this, it would likely sort of shatter into tiny little beads, which would roll around. And it is heavy, but if you step on it, some of it would probably get on the bottom of your shoe. As you continue to step, it would drop off as you, so that's the easiest way that it gets spread, really, is on the bottom of people's shoes.
So it's possible that maybe it was only really in the parking lot initially, but then somebody else came in contact, somebody else came in contact. I mean, is that kind of the thought maybe? Or?
Yeah, we think that what is likely is that it got spilled in one or maybe a couple of locations, and then as people walked through, particularly now since we know the timeline is longer than we thought it was yesterday, a greater chance of people walk through, and then they tracked it other places in the area. So that's why I kind of half anticipate that we may find it in yet more places as time goes on.
Can you say that these two additional locations are not spills then and are foot traffic?
There's no way to know for sure, because we're just finding it there. You know, it's not like it has like with liquid where there would be a pattern to it, like if you were to spray water on the wall or something like that. And they're like BBs, so while they're droplets, they like to roll and they move around easily. So there's no way to know whether it was dropped there or transported there, other than guesstimating based on the volume, and it would be a complete guesstimate.
And at this point, do you think it's foot traffic from the general public or possibly from the suspect?
I suspect most of it is because of this footprint is getting so much larger, is probably just the general public. I can't imagine this one individual walked all those places, so I think that that's a lot of the general public walking through it, getting it on their shoes, and bringing it. You know, everybody probably may, I don't know for certain, but if you were to put 1 foot in it, then you may take it for another 10 or 15 feet. Then somebody else gets it, and they take it another 10 or 15 feet in another direction. So that's how it spreads.
So it's a liquid that kind of balls up when it,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So if you've ever put water into a really hot frying pan, and you know how it pops and sizzles and the water zips around on the frying pan, that's kind of what mercury does at room temperature. Yeah.
And do you think, based on the expanded timeline and the expanded, footprint, as you said,
Yeah, we still think it's less than a pint. Yeah.
And when was this additional testing done or completed?
So it's ongoing. There's more testing going on as we speak, and we'll continue as we continue to, have areas we want to investigate. And so most of the testing for the Walmart was earlier today and overnight last night and earlier today. Just getting the results back not too terribly long ago. And then the Buc-ee's across the street, that occurred really just within the last couple hours.
So is it hard to access this? I understand it was potentially from a warehouse or a lab. Is it hard to locate these, or they usually, when buildings shut down,
So that's not a question for the doctor. I don't know if you need to ask law enforcement or our environmental folks. If I wanted a vial of mercury, I wouldn't know where to go look for it other than the official places to find it. Yeah.
Can you tell us what prompted the testing at these additional locations? Was it a call into 911?
So mostly
or-
it's the work of law enforcement. We really need to credit them with coordinating information that they got and feeding it to us so we were able to send the people out there to do the testing.
What can you say about the process of cleanup?
So the property owners are responsible for cleanup, and they have engaged a professional hazardous materials cleanup company that is out on site, and they're actually the ones who are helping us with the testing, but they will also be the ones responsible for doing the cleaning. Now, one thing about mercury is you can't just clean it up with spick and span and on a wet cloth. There's a particular way you have to clean it up. For example, if you're to use a regular vacuum cleaner on it, a vacuum cleaner is like the worst thing because you don't want it getting hot, because then it will vaporize. And it's the vapor that's the problem. The mercury is a little ball rolling around on a table is not the risk, as long as you don't ingest it, as long as you don't eat it. It's the vapor it gives off that we worry about. So you don't want it getting hot, and you don't want it getting sprayed all over the place. So a routine vacuum cleaner is like the worst thing to use. But they have special equipment to go ahead and methods too, ways to sort of soak up the mercury into another form, and then ways to get it up off the ground.
any idea how long it could take, or?
This is a fairly large footprint. I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised if we're talking about this for a couple days. That wouldn't surprise me. It's a large footprint.
Can you talk about the containers that this mercury came in? I mean, were there vials
Yeah.
or test tubes found broken around some of these
So that's a
initial
question for
sites?
law enforcement, so I'm going to stick to the health and medical stuff.
And also, what would you recommend if somebody, was in that area between the 13th and the 15th, and they walked around there?
So the first thing I would do is consider how long you were there. And if you were outdoors, and this is really important, if you're outdoors or even in the Walmart where there's a lot of circulating air, the mercury we found has been on the ground. And so with that movement of air, that would keep any vapors low to the ground. And so people are at almost very little risk. We've already, had conversations with the employees who are working there because they're there for longer periods of time. They're still at really low risk. So for the general public, we want to make sure they know that the mercury's out there. They deserve to know that the mercury was there, but we don't want to excite anybody or cause anybody any undue panic or concern because the risk is so really low. You'd have to inhale it or eat it somehow. So how would you, nobody's going to be eating things off the parking lot floor, right? So there would be almost no way for it to get ingested. So if you did, on the other hand, if you did develop symptoms, the symptoms are the sorts of things that would any sort of respiratory irritant. So you get runny eyes and scratchy eyes, runny nose, a sore throat, a cough, and nausea. So those are the, unfortunately, at this time of year, there are a lot of things which will cause those same symptoms, everything from allergies to, the cold and flu viruses. So if you have those symptoms, you probably have got a virus. Okay.
Sorry, I got here a little bit late. Could you repeat just the update for tonight?
Sure. So the update is that we have found that the spill initially occurred not on Saturday, but as we thought yesterday, but we now have reason to believe that it occurred on Friday the 13th of December. And in addition, we have found mercury in places that we didn't know about yesterday. It has been found inside the Walmart, in particular the McDonald's inside the Walmart, and there's a Buc-ee's, B-U-C-K-Y''S, Buc-ee's convenience store across the other side of the Beltway that is similarly contaminated. So the two updates are that the footprint is a little bit larger, the area of concern is a little bit larger than we reported to you yesterday, and also now we have confirmation that the spill probably actually occurred on Friday as opposed to on Saturday. Okay. All right, thank you, everybody. That work for you guys?